Good morning, dear Thay, dear community. We'll begin this morning session with 3 sounds of the bell. So we are invited to return to our body, to our posture, to the sense of the presence of the body in this moment, how it is, the way it is, without pressure, without wanting to be something, without manipulation, just noticing what's there for us in this moment, what is our expectation, what is our feelings and our emotions. And we just allow that to be in the space of listening and to be together with the sound of the bell. So good morning, dear Thay, dear brothers and sisters, dear friends. So I am Brother Phap Bieu. I'm originally from Italy and I've been living in Plum village since 2008. And this is my dear brother Phap Trien, and we ordained around the same time, actually not very far apart from each other. And so we've been in this community together for quite a number of years now. Today I feel like it's quite a privilege or quite a joy to be able to share next to my brother. We don't have many opportunities to be together, because Brother Phap Trien right now is living in one of our centers in the US. And he hasn't been back in Plum Village for a very long time. So this is a very rare and precious opportunity, although we looked at each other and we shared a little bit about what we wanted to do, and pretty much we came to a point in which we had no idea what to share. And generally I feel that's a very good space, you know. When I prepare for a sharing, I try to make sure that I coming up and you know, in the moments previous to coming to sit on this chair, I feel vulnerable enough and I feel open enough. And oftentimes when there is an idea, when there is an intention to come and share and say something, there is something a little bit hard and it doesn't really communicate well. It might sound good and I might get good feedbacks from people, but something inside is missing, and I can tell that. I can tell when the communication is not happening. And so the invitation for this morning would be to make this sharing, kind of communication between us. Myself and Brother Phap Trien will be talking mostly, but at the same time we're all participating into this. And there's no a sense in which there is some knowledge or some experience that is flowing from here to there, but we're both engaging, we're both asking questions, all of us. We're trying to engage the full-blown reality of ourselves. You know, we are here, we're sitting here in this Dharma hall, and we have an experience, we have a life, we have our traumas, our sufferings, our happiness, our joy, and everything that's made us up to this moment. And so can we invite all of that to be sitting on this cushion and challenge the teaching from that standpoint? and listen to what we're being told, to what they're sharing is, with just with a simple intention to understand something about ourselves. Which does not mean that you have to agree or disagree with what is said. In fact, it's interesting, when we agree or disagree about something, we're not really learning anything, isn't it? We're just comparing. I already know something, and therefore I agree or I disagree. But when we open ourselves up and we just accept that there is a lot that we don't know, and this is ours, so we have to include ourselves in that number. There is so much that we don't know. And the mystery of not knowing is something very beautiful, something that creates interaction, that creates a kind of connection between us. And so I would like for us just to invite that to be there for us this morning and just make it something alive. Otherwise, you know, if we just sit there as very good schoolboys or schoolgirls and trying to get some information, it's not information what we are sharing. It's something a little bit more complex, something more complicated than just a bunch of thoughts that have already been said and transmitted and told us. And so I would like the whole complication of the practice of the mind, of our life, to be present here in this Dharma hall, and to be present in your heart in this moment and see what the words that have been shared, they trigger inside of ourselves. And get interested in all that. It doesn't always have to be super happy, super beautiful, but it just has to be very real, something that resonates with our internal, landscape. So let's invite that to be alive, to be with us in this moment. And we'll try our best, I guess, to do the same, right? So I was supposed to do the introduction, and now what do we do? You're making tea. So maybe I'll start, and I share something very general about the intention that is behind the practice. And that was one of the ideas that came up during our brief morning meeting around a cup of coffee. I feel, first of all, I would like to thank and express my gratitude for all the people that came to visit us. And it's very beautiful to see Plum Village opening up again and being filled with the life and with the stories of all the people that are coming to visit. And also, of course, of the monastics and the monks and nuns and the lay people that are residents here in Plum Village. But we receive so much also from all the stories and all the energy that we bring here, And as we come to a place of practice, I think there's a number of questions that are very interesting for us to contemplate, which is, what am I looking for? Why am I here? What is this about? Also, right? This is an interesting question, because sometimes we are called to go somewhere, and we just know that we have to do it, but there's not much clarity in what we are looking for and what is happening inside. And sometimes things happen even though we are not very clear about it. So that's the beauty of life, isn't it? Sometimes you fall in love, and you fall in love even if you don't know why it's that person in particular. It just happens to you. And there's a lot of beauty to that. And at the same time, I think we have the right to ask questions, right? We have the right to kind of look deeper into things. Why am I here? What am I doing here? I'm doing something rather useless. I'm just sitting on a cushion and doing nothing and trying not to think. Right? Has anybody been able to not think? You can raise your hand. All right, not many people. Right? We're doing something very challenging, like facing the mind and seeing what the mind is about. And this whole process is rather mysterious, I have to say. I've been here for many years, and I've done, I'd say, a decent amount of meditation and practice. And still there are many things that are unknown to me. And I feel like the unknown is rather expanding than contracting. And that's an interesting phenomenon that's happening in my mind. I don't know what that is about. Maybe we can explore that together. I believe we come here with a number of experiences, and we have been coming here also after a period that was rather difficult, I guess, for most of us, or maybe for all of us, coming here from a period of isolation, of maybe loneliness, maybe separation, maybe anxiety also, the difficulty in, I guess, also the feeling of powerlessness when we want to help somebody we love and we feel we cannot do much, and the feeling that we cannot protect ourselves sometimes because things are way too complicated and too complex for us to actually do something about it, something concrete. And yes, the challenge is there, is in front of us, and we don't know what to do about that. So that might be maybe loosely in the landscape of our mind. And so one of the topics that we could explore this morning is how to find connection. We touch isolation. We know how isolation happens, right? We know how loneliness happens. Do we, actually? Or maybe we have to explore, actually, how loneliness happens. How is it that it is there? And it comes to visit, even though we have good condition, even though we might have a partner, a family, and yet some of these things still continue to happen in our lives. And we still have to measure ourselves with them. And how does it happen? How is it that it comes up? And how is it that we touch a feeling of connection and a feeling of openness and a sense of interaction, of communication with things? And we've touched that, right? We have been into a place of real feeling of, we call it, in Plum Village, is something we call interbeing, right? A feeling that we are together, something, that we are participating in the same reality, and the separation between ourselves and the other gets a little bit more porous, I would say, right? We get penetrated, interpenetrated by elements that we normally we don't notice in our life, and that's also there. When there's a real sense of affection for somebody, and we feel that barrier becoming more fading away a little bit. We feel that happening. And is there a sense in which we can learn how to do that? Is there a sense in which we can learn how to make that happen in our life more and more often? And this is also another question. And so maybe I'll hand over the mic to my brother and open up that question of. And I won't be asking questions all the time, so this is not an interview, but it's just a way to pass the mic. Otherwise, I'll talk an hour and a half. And to maybe open up that question of connection, of interaction, of togetherness. So, you know something about it?
Good morning, dear respected teacher, dear brothers, dear sisters, and dear beloved community. I hope everyone can hear me okay. Wow, it's so wonderful to be sitting up here. As I'm sitting up here, it's a lot of just returning to this moment is coming up for me. I think just the awareness that just sitting here, and this is the view that Thay sees all the time when he's giving his talks. And so it's just very moving for me, just to kind of be an extra finger or an extra hand of Thay while sitting up here, and connecting with that and being aware that Thay is here right now with us, and through myself and Brother Phap Bieu, and as well as the community sitting. So we wouldn't be here without you guys, and that's very clear. And I'm just so grateful for that. And so, as my brother shared, I'm Brother Phap Trien, and I'm coming from Magnolia Grove Monastery in Mississippi. And I grew up in Mississippi before I became a monk. And I apologize beforehand if my English becomes very difficult to understand. Because coming from the deep south, sometimes it might come out, my southern accent, as well as when I get very excited, I tend to forget that I'm speaking, and whatever comes out, comes out. And so if I see a couple of faces that are kind of clueless, I'll use that as a mindfulness bell. Or I'll try to. So please have patience with me, because this is such a very precious moment just to be sitting here, and I'm just so fortunate. And when I had the invitation to sit up here, I was very reluctant, because I felt that even though I think right now we're considered as more experienced in the practice in terms of the community now, but I still feel like a baby in the practice and in the Sangha. And but I just offer who I am and for the community. And also the opportunity to be up here with my brother is also a rare opportunity. And so I usually give we try to find excuses to have tea together, because tea is a very great way to connect, especially being here in the Plum Village community. We like to have tea and connect, and so I guess this is our excuse for having tea together in front of 200-something people. But as my brother shared, connecting, just wanted to connect, and so that's so, for me, I feel just the connection is so important with my brothers and sisters, as well as with our friends who are here. And so sometimes I ask myself a lot, how do I connect, or what is the purpose? Why am I here? And I still ask myself that question, even though I've been a monk for 13 years. But I still ask myself that question, why am I still here? What still inspires me to be here? And a part of it is just the connection with the community. But also what I'm discovering more recently, especially during this past couple of years, very difficult moments, is connecting with myself. And so sometimes I like to sit in front of a beautiful community and just many beautiful flowers, many different but very beautiful flowers. But sometimes I forget to put myself a part of the equation, because you're looking at so many things outside of you, you forget to look at yourself. And so actually these past couple of years has been a journey for myself to connect with myself even more. Like, who am I? Of course, I see myself, I have my name, I have, in the mirror, when I look in the morning, I see my face, and I have my body, but, you still don't, at times I really do not know who I am. I just feel like I'm a part of something. And in our practice, we have something called flowing as a river. So just flowing as a community, being a drop of water in the community. Sometimes I ask myself, what kind of drop of water am I? Am I a big one, a small one? Am I wetter than other ones? I don't know. But it is a question that comes up to me, and it's very interesting as we come here as practitioners, especially now that Plum Village is opening up again, and we have many of our friends coming, and we've all experienced something during these past times, and but we're here now, and so something that comes up for me is now that we are generating this environment of practice, what do we want to get out of it? And so here, practicing with the monks and nuns, we have a wonderful opportunity just to deepen our practice of mindfulness and our practice of being present in this moment, and connecting with ourselves. A word that my brother used this morning was the word of isolation or loneliness. And how do we practice with that? So actually loneliness has been something very real for me these past couple of years. Yeah, in monastics, yes, we do become lonely. That's very real. We're just, we're also humans as well. And so it's very natural for us to be a part of that. But I feel one thing that's very interesting as a monastic or even as practitioners is we really have a chance to be in front of ourselves. If you allow me to explain, it's like when we're encountering our mindfulness practice and we're encountering maybe an emotion, a very strong emotion. So as practitioners, we practice to be with that emotion and not suppress it. So maybe sometimes outside, if you're at home or in society, the tendency, what we usually do is we suppress, or we find something else to fill in that void within our practice. And so we could be, oh my goodness, anger is coming. Okay, throw it away. Let me eat some ice cream, or let me go watch a movie, or let me go and be on my phone, which is not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. But as practitioners, we practice to be in front of that. And sometimes it can be very scary. For me, myself, I see that sometimes just being in front of my emotions, it's a very scary place. Because you're really seeing yourself and you're like, wow, that is me. But my practice is to really take care of it, see it as a little puppy or a little brother or a little friend, and really have a relationship with my own emotion, with my own feeling. And so loneliness for me more recently has been my little friend. And I ask myself, what am I looking for in terms of loneliness, or what do I want in order to be not lonely? And so in my mind, I think that having friends or connecting with my friends or having people around me, I won't be lonely. But there's many times, sometimes I'm sitting in a group of people, but I feel like I can't connect, or I feel very lonely. I feel very empty. I don't know what to do. And so sometimes my loneliness might not be fulfilled outside of me. I think that's something that I've slowly come to realize. And then when I look internally, then what is it? What can fulfill my loneliness inside of me? Rather, if I can't get it outside, then what can I get it inside? And something that I'm realizing even now is it's really with the practices that we have here in Plum Village, the practices of breathing and the practices of walking, Like those are really moments for me to really be with myself. Usually what I like to share with friends is that our breathing is like our best friend. It never lets us down, because the moment it lets us down, we're kind of not here anymore, right? So our breathing is always there for us. Our footsteps are walking. If we're able to continue to walk, it's always there. And so sometimes many of us, we like to think that our mindfulness is like a tool, or our breathing is a tool. But sometimes tools can get rusty. Sometimes tools can get broken. I think many of us, I think now that the monastics now, or the brothers and sisters now, we're starting to cut the grass again, and we're starting to build, or like it's springtime, so a lot of work is happening, and we're realizing that our lawnmowers, they need maintenance, or they sometimes let us down many times when we're cutting, and then it just stops, and then it's just like, it's a tool. But sometimes I see some, like I used to have that relationship with mindfulness or my breathing, is that it's a tool. But something Thay said that really changed the way that I see how I practice mindfulness. But rather than it being a tool, it is a way we live our life. And so my breath is a way that I live my life. So it's not just a tool that brings me back to this moment. There's something that is fluid with me in this moment. It's always there. But it's up to me if I want to be aware if it's there or not. And so in moments where it's very easy to practice breathing, in sitting meditation or in walking meditation, I feel very present with myself. And when I'm present with myself, I feel so much less lonely. I really feel that, my breathing is there. So I'm content. I'm happy. And I give rise to that feeling of happiness. Or when I'm walking and I'm grounding myself within the earth and allowing Mother Earth to embrace me, I really feel that that is a moment of connecting with the lovely Mother Earth, but as well as connecting with myself, seeing the nourishment I'm receiving with Mother Earth, but also having that be a way I live my life, rather than, I'm feeling lonely, let me go and do this, and it might make me feel better. I was having tea with my brother the other day, and we were talking, like, sometimes people ask, like, why doesn't Plum Village have, like, a structure? If I do this, then this is what will happen. Like, if I practice this, then this is what will happen, like a guideline. So, like, I want to have happiness. Please tell me how I have happiness. And then, maybe some people are expecting something very structural. Like, okay, if you want to have happiness, you do this, 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 and that, and you will have happiness. But you can't really find that here in Plum Village, because our happiness is coming in many different ways. And so sometimes if we try something that brings us happiness, so there's a story that I have is, so as a young novice, I used to be very afraid of my elder brothers. And so I would always, I did not like the practice of sitting meditation. I really did not like it. It's because I ordained at a very young age. And so waking up early in the morning and having to go to this hall to sit, I did not like it. But I had a fear of my elder brothers. And so I would just force myself to go and just maybe sleep or whatever in the hall. But soon later I realized, okay, I'm sitting here, I might as well practice something. And so I'm practicing, I'm putting myself, okay, I'm sitting solidly, I feel my back straight, I feel my breathing. Okay, this is what happiness feels like. Or this feels good, this feels good. And then, you have that feeling of, I feel so good. Okay, this is what sitting is supposed to feel like. You've reached like some kind of peace. You want to reach this peace again. And so the next morning, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do it the same exact thing. I'm gonna wake up the same time. I'm gonna go and do the same exact thing, and just to make sure that I get that. And I come into the hall, I do the same exact thing, feeling good, sitting down, and then, back straight, all this stuff. And then I have like the worst sitting ever. And I ask myself, but I did the same exact thing that gave me peace the other day. Why am I feeling like so terrible? And then that's when I realized that, wow, the practice is so fluid. We have to really continue to nurture the good things in life. So there's no structure, but we have to understand that our breathing and our steps and our mindfulness in each moment is what really helps us to connect with ourselves. And when we're connecting with ourselves, then we possibly, it doesn't just have to be the sitting meditation where we're in touch with peace and happiness. It can be the moments after, in between the scheduled activities where we're reaching those moments of peace and happiness. And one last thing before I pass over the mic is when I hear about connection. So I'm here visiting for 3 months, and my 3-month visit is almost over, unfortunately. But I realized that, so I have my responsibilities in the States and so on, and you try to connect with them. And so we have these things called phones, smartphones, and I myself, I have one as well, just to try to connect. But I realized how much more disconnected I am with my smartphone. When you think you're connecting, but you're really losing yourself. So my practice with the smartphone is very fun. It's a great challenge because I see, we think that, yes, we have the phone. It's a great device for us to connect when necessary. But also, sometimes it's very easy for us to disconnect with those around us. So my practice with the smartphone is just to really try to not cover up any loneliness, but see where I am with it as well. So basically, moral of the story for me is with loneliness and isolation is really, sometimes we ask ourselves the question, what are we looking for? And are we finding it outside of ourselves? Or are we finding it within ourselves? So sometimes we are our best friend. We can fulfill our own loneliness through just connecting with our breathing, our walking, and relaxing, and our body. So our body is really the vessel for all things. So I really don't have like a question for our brother. I'm really bad with questions, but I think maybe I've got the ball rolling. Maybe our brother can pass the mic on so that we keep things interesting. So thank you for listening.
Thank you, Brother Phap Trien. I think it's okay you don't have many questions because I'm always overflowing with questions. I have way too many. So sometimes that's also a limitation. I remember during our Vietnamese New Year, we had a number of brothers and sisters visiting the room, and we were having a conversation. And Sister Gina, she shared with me, brother, you are stuck. You know, she told me, I asked that question too many times. You know, that's kind of true. But then I replied, but then how come I really want to ask this question? You know, it's like there's something inside that really wants to, throw it out there, question everything that comes at me. You know, so I hope that that's not going to be too intense for everybody. I appreciate very much what my brother just shared, and there are many things that resonate with me, and I'd like to come back a little bit to the topic of loneliness and isolation. But this could also be the topic of suffering in general. So we're saying loneliness and isolation because I guess that's been something that's been real for us in the past couple of years. But there's many other things that have been real, you know. So we also have to know what is our issue, what is our problem. And I believe actually when we figure out one problem and we really figure it out, then many other problems become much more easy to solve. So we don't have to go by suffering and figure out all of those. But there's something that is real, and it is sitting in front of us. And it is our choice. Do I face it or do I run away? And we've tried many strategies already, didn't we? I think we've been trying all kinds of tricks and strategies our whole life. And I have this suffering, and as my brother said, I go and eat a sandwich or something, you know, or I call up a friend, or I melt my brain with YouTube videos and things like that are not very beneficial, cat videos and things like that. And cat videos can be very cute, but they might not really help us to advance spiritually and to understand us more deeply. And I have nothing with cat videos. You can watch cat videos if you want. I did a few times, actually. It's okay, close that one. So I am sitting here, right? And I've tried to run away. And finally, I realize the more you run away from something, from your suffering, the more you do not stop and face it. And the more this suffering keeps growing. Because running away is a way of suppressing it. We're putting more pressure, injecting more pressure in the system. Because we do not want to be watching all those videos. We do not want to be eating all that food. We don't need it. And we know we don't. But it is a way of covering up something. And therefore it requires an incredible amount of energy from our body and from our consciousness. And we've seen that. That is very clear. That's taken place in our life, right? We are not just telling this to ourselves. This is not just, hopefully, it's not just a teaching that we are repeating and it makes no sense. But we have seen that. We've seen ourselves running away, escaping, and we've seen what the effect of that is. Right? So we decided that doesn't work, and we sign up for a Buddhist retreat. And so let's say, okay, let's go and do some meditation. That will help me, right? And then when we sign up for a Buddhist retreat, we come here and then everything is nice. But then we're faced also with the complication of the mind of really facing things. So is our meditation another way to escape? How do we make sure that our meditation is not just another, an alternative to cat videos and things like that? And we need to know that because we have been running away from things. We've trained that habit and we run away with all kinds of objects, with this and that. It doesn't really matter. And we have been doing that for so long. Slowly, okay, thank you. Send my love for the translators. I feel sorry for you. We've been doing that for so long that it's very easy to repeat that again. We change the object, but the intention and the habit is the same. So we sit on our cushion and there is me and the loneliness, and I'm doing a trick to the loneliness. I'm trying to change the loneliness. I'm trying to transform. I'm trying to manipulate the loneliness. And in that sense, there is a sense of separation, isn't it? There is me and there is the loneliness. And the loneliness should not be there because I do not like it. Right? Anybody likes to be lonely? Huh? There are things that we don't like inside of ourselves. I hope I'm speaking common sense and like what is our experience of our life, really. And there is this object, there is this thing sitting there, and all I want to do is to reject it. And therefore I sit, therefore I breathe, therefore I calm down, therefore I relax the body. And all of this, you know, it might bring sometimes some kind of state of quiet, of a certain degree of relaxation, but it never really resolves the problem, doesn't it? So sometimes we even come to a retreat and we feel really good, and we touch something very beautiful, and then we go back and we find a different environment, we return to our life, and it's still there, and it's still the same problem, the same difficulty. So my brother said something very interesting. He said, I can't just repeat something. I have a very good meditation, right? And sometimes this actually happens to us. There is a problem. My anger, my loneliness comes up. And suddenly I deal with it very well. I embrace it, I take care of it, and it is gone. And once it is gone, it feels really good. It's gone, and I suddenly touch this feeling of peace, of openness, of joy, of lightness. Right? Have we had that before? This is possible, and it is not difficult, and it happens in our life quite naturally, actually. You don't need to be Buddhist or a practitioner in order to have had this experience. I've had this as a very confused and angry teenager, you know. So this is not something difficult. It happens to us. But then something comes up in the mind, right? Then says, that felt really good, and I want to repeat that. And so we analyze and we look, what were the conditions? And the next time it comes up, instead of dealing with the loneliness, instead of being there, of really embrace it, I try to repeat what I did before. And therefore the practice becomes a procedure, it becomes a repetitive, it becomes just if you want, a kind of ritual that we do. We have known that has worked, and so we repeat it once again. And next thing you know, when we repeat something, it very soon loses its freshness. It very soon loses that capacity, that very tender capacity to nourish something beautiful and lively inside of ourselves. Right? And we see that, right? We fall in love with somebody, and it's so beautiful, and everything flows very naturally. Is that okay? Okay. And then repetition and routine sometimes brings that relationship to a place in which we lose that capacity to appreciate each other. And then suddenly we wake up one morning, we feel like, I do not love this person anymore. Or I cultivated this feeling of rejection and of anger towards this person. Right? So the problem of repetition and how we relate with the practice as a new object is very important, I would say. How can I be with my loneliness? How can I be with it? And feel sort of, on one end, to feel like I don't really have to know what's the procedure to take care of it. I don't relate to my loneliness as, you know, a math problem, or as, you know, some kind of cold object that has to be, you know, just dealt with. Can I deal with my loneliness as a friend? And I like this, being with our suffering as a friend. I like this in particular because friends are a very complicated thing. It's very difficult to learn how to make friends, isn't it? And we learn our whole life, and sometimes we find ourselves at 40 and 50 and we still fail, and friendships get broken. And that makes us feel very vulnerable and very, it's very puzzling how to create a friendship with somebody. And you could read a book, right? You could have 10 points of how to make friendship, and these things, there's all kind of people selling this, do this, and that, and give me some money, and you have lots of friends. And actually, does that really work? Does it work like that? If it worked like that, then it wouldn't be something very meaningful, wouldn't it? But there is something very beautiful to it. And that sense of friendship is also a sense of not knowing the other person. There is a sense of getting acquainted to each other, of creating that connection, but there is a mystery. There is the mystery of the other. All the things that I don't know, and that make life and that make connection beautiful. This path of discovering each other, this path of revealing ourselves to each other. The moment we know a person, we stop loving that person, we stop appreciating that person. Because I know you already. Why do I have to deal with your habit once again? And why do I have to deal with that annoying thing you always do when we meet? Right? It's boring to know each other. So, can that be alive also in our practice when we deal with something internal? When we deal with the loneliness? Can we not feel hopeless and yet deal with it in such a way that it feels somehow, we feel open, we feel vulnerable in front of it. We feel like we're making friends. So we stop, we look, and we say, hey, I am here. I don't know. I don't know what you are about. And we create that space of listening, of opening, in which things naturally reveal themselves to us. But that takes a real sense of affection. Can you be affectionate to your loneliness? Can we love our loneliness and really love it? Not just in a masochistic way, like harming oneself, but just really having that in front of us and having that sense of intimacy and friendship and interaction and communication with it. And it turns out, one thing that is very interesting, when we can do that, when we can really interact with loneliness in that way, then the problem of chasing loneliness away, of running away from loneliness, or suppressing or transforming all that, is no longer there actually. If you become friends with it, it doesn't really matter if it still remains or if it goes, because it's a friend. It's an unwanted, it's a difficult friend. It's not a friend that, comes in right away, you feel that spark and it all flows naturally, but it's a friend. And with that friendship, with that feeling of friendship, you can remain with it and not demand it to go. Now what happens? Now this is the suffering of the meditator. The complicated aspect of the practice, which is, this sounds quite interesting. And I allow myself to be there with loneliness once, and I fully let down all our weapons. I let down all my arms and just, okay, I give up. I surrender. And surrender is always complete. It cannot be just a negotiation or just like, no, I surrender and I let it just be. And somehow that works. I touch that feeling of intimacy with myself, and I feel that leads to a sense of happiness, of joy, of relaxation, which is very alive. It's not something like a kind of joy that you have when you go and dance in a concert and you jump around or see a very good friend. It's something very lively, very beautiful. And that feels so good that the next time loneliness comes up, you're like, I know what to do. I need to make space for you. And then we turn that experience into a procedure, right? Does that make sense? You know, can we see that? Can we see that? Does that happen in our life even? And if we say no, you don't need to agree. You know, you don't need to agree with what I say. So the point is, can we allow the intention to fully be open and to listen and to be there with our internal world, with all that openness and acceptance, to be genuine every time, to be innocent every time. Because we have a beautiful experience on the path, and we have a wonderful retreat in Plum Village, and we feel so open, and all of this takes place rather naturally, right? We touch connection, we touch happiness, and it had been so long, you know, and suddenly we feel, I have it, it's there. Happiness is possible. Huh? And then we sign up again a year later, and it's much more complicated. You're like, oh, so this practice doesn't really work after all, and we get depressed, and now the world, there's no answer, you know. But rather, can we come to a retreat and really not know what we're going to find, and be surprised by the practice, be surprised by every sitting meditation. Every morning we sit there on a cushion and we have no idea what's going to happen. And we breathe, we try all of that. If it works, does it work? Does it not work? What is happening inside? There is a thought arising. What is that thought? Rather than applying some teaching and we're being told, do not think. And then we go on for months on end to fight with our thinking because we believe that that will bring some aim at the end. And we lose our interest in the practice in that way because sooner or later we wait long enough and we realize that doesn't work. And therefore we say, oh, the practice is useless, it doesn't work. Is it really? Or that's maybe an element that was missing to it. We look at things, do we look at them with fresh, new eyes? Can we allow ourselves to know nothing about it and yet to feel, I am going to engage with this because it is there in my life and I have no choice really. And I believe that if we relate to things in this way, and I experienced this. If we relate even to our suffering in this way, then the question of how do I get rid of suffering, how I chase it away, it's no longer so important. So we're human beings, some degree of suffering is going to be there, right? I do not think that we are trying to sell, I'm cautious about saying this, but I don't think we are trying to sell people a kind of world in which there is no suffering and everybody is a happy Buddhist and, there's no war, no conflict, no anger. There's a lot of anger and sadness sometimes, even in a monastery. Even we have all these teachings about dealing with ourselves. The anger is there. The sadness is there. And the practice is not about not having anger. If you don't have anger, then fine, but that's, there's nothing special about it. You just don't have it. But if you have it and you become friends with it and you know how to deal with it, then there is something deep that happens. There are people that are very naturally, they don't suffer so much. That's good for them, but how is that helpful to you? Because there are other things that comes up in life. And there are complications sometimes. So I would say that this is, and then also I'm going to pass on the microphone to my brother, see what he says about this. We speak about recognizing an emotion and then embracing an emotion. And once we have embraced an emotion, we can move on with the practice. But really, we have to be very careful with that. That is the process of the practice, that is what we do. And at the same time, we have to make sure that there is this mind applying the practice, which is very, very free, even from the process, even from the teaching. Because the mind needs to be very alert to notice what is changing over there. If we are in a mindset of wanting to reproduce something, or some a kind of mindset wanting to apply a teaching, which is, I read this book and it sounds all very good, and it makes sense, and it makes me feel inspired, and make me feel like I can try to do this, and I apply those words to my life. Isn't that a little bit unrealistic? So all the complication, all the richness of a lived experience be mediated by a few pages of a book, right? I'm not saying we shouldn't read books. I'm just saying that's an inspiration, but then we relate to experience with a mind that is very free and capable of adapting to objects. So we sit there on a cushion and we breathe. But we need to know when the breathing becomes mechanical. When we're just in, out, kind of army style, marching our way to nirvana. Right? Because if the practice was a mechanical movement, then a computer could do it very well. And so we could program our smartphone and it could do all this breathing thing for us. And it would be very handy, actually, if it worked like that. Sometimes I wish it would work like that. It would be very, well, anyways, it doesn't. So how do we relate with things so that it remains a lively object? And that requires some courage. Courage also of letting know, of letting go of what we have experienced. Okay, I had a good meditation, and it worked today. Next time, can I have the same kind of vulnerability and openness toward that practice? So I'm sitting there, and I just open up, and I say, okay, I'll try breathing, I'll try listening to the body, but I really have to listen. So mindfulness, I think there are two words that go together with mindfulness that are very important. One is listening. You have to know how to listen. And to listen, you have to be really there. You cannot listen if you already have an idea about what's happening. Right? If you already know what your husband or your wife or your girlfriend or your child is thinking or why he did something, then when he explains it to you, you're not going to listen. You already know. And then you lose the opportunity to learn something about somebody you love. And the other word is a sense of affection, I would say. And mindfulness is only real mindfulness when there is a sense of affection and deep interest in what is happening. Whether mindfulness is directed at the loneliness, at the despair, at the depression, or it is directed at something very simple as the sense of touching the ground with your feet. You can be very affectionate when you do walking meditation. If there is that sense of affection, which is a kind of attraction toward things, right? When we feel affectionate, there is a sense of in which things are trying to get together. There's something bridging the gap in that type of attention. And that, I think, is a very important quality of mindfulness. So we touch the ground and we really care for the ground. So we try to walk sometime in such a way that we don't disturb the earth. Have you tried to do that with that intention? You try to walk in such a way that you won't disturb. Just the way if you had a little child or a nephew or somebody and you come into the room when he's sleeping, there's a quality to the way you will walk in that situation. And that quality is infused with a sense of affection, of love. Now, can you apply that to your life? Can we apply that to being with each other, to walking around, to sitting on that cushion? So listening and affection is the two words that I would always link to mindfulness. If mindfulness is cold, is just noticing, is a program running. So in-breath, out-breath, in-breath, out-breath. And sometimes we're not really listening. We're just listening to our word, in, out, in, out. You can repeat that word automatically. You know, sometimes, all right, I'm going to end with this, but sometimes I train as a novice. I got told, okay, you learn how to count your breathing. Easy, 1 to 10, and then back, 10 to 1. So I learned how to do that. And at the beginning, it's actually quite difficult. So it requires quite some presence in order to be with the breathing from 1 to 10, and then 10 to 1, and not get lost in some kind of train of thought and just find yourself a mile away from your meditation subject. And I learned how to do that. And for some time, it actually worked, and it helped me to center myself. So that could be a technique that works sometimes. And then my mind, very clever, and then he learned how to count. I learned how to count from 1 to 10 at the age of 20. And I could do that automatically. So the thing is, like, when you're taught to count from 1 to 10, is that if you lose count, then you need to start from the beginning. And the thing, like, even I lose myself in thinking, I still know which number I'm on. Huh? So I can count automatically, and then back and forth like that. And so at that point I realized maybe I need to move on to some different practice. Otherwise I'll be counting for a long time. Anyway, thank you for listening.
Breathing in, I bring full awareness to the oxygen entering my lungs. Breathing out, I release. Breathing in, I allow the oxygen entering my body to touch each and every cell of my body, from the top of my head all the way down to my toes. Breathing out, I release, and I thank each and every cell of my body for being there for me. Dear friends, continue to enjoy this feeling, this sensation of relaxing your body. You can be aware if we're feeling tired, aware if we're feeling alive, feeling free. Aware that we're sitting here in this hall together and connecting with each other. Just release and relax. So thank you, brother, for your very wonderful sharing. I actually wanted him to keep going because it was just, I was really feeling very connected and feeling very just grateful just to have that opportunity just to listen to my brother's practice. I remember there was, while listening to my brother sharing about affection, about being a part of our practice of mindfulness, a story came up about when I was attending Thay. And we were just walking outside of his hut, getting ready to go to the Dharma talk, and Thay looked back and he said two things. And he was walking. And he said, "Let's walk as if we're kissing the earth." So each footstep is kissing Mother Earth, just thanking Mother Earth as her children, as a child with her mother, just a very gentle kiss. And then after a couple of steps, he looked back at me and he's like, "My dear child, isn't the earth so delicious?" And then next step, he would make this sound, yum, yum, mmm, mmm. It's so good. It's so good. And he'd walk like that all the way to the hall, just mmm. It's really a kind of nourishment, our steps and connecting with the earth. So when my brother shared about the affection, the careness that we have, not only for the earth, but for ourselves, and what kind of nutriments and nourishment we're giving to ourselves daily, it's very interesting to see what nourishes us throughout the day. And our mindfulness can really bring that awareness, see what we want to nourish, see what we want to achieve. Yeah, I was very touched with my brother sharing, and it's very interesting sitting up here because, like my brother started off was like, this is a panel sharing, and we were looking at each other this morning. We're just like, so what are we doing? And then we're like, I don't know. We'll just see what happens. We'll just see what happens. And so usually, for myself, I kind of I find myself as a very easygoing, very free-spirited, and ready for whatever kind of person. But I found myself this morning being very nervous, just because I think my brother is even more free-spirited than me. And so, but it's just, I'm just sitting here and just realizing, wow, time, is almost up. And it's just the connecting with each other, just being so free and just wanting to connect. It can just really make a very rich past couple of however long we've been here. And I feel very nourished. I don't know about how everyone else feels, but I feel very nourished. And so I think a lot about, as a practitioner, like my brother shared, the relationships that we have with our emotions, but also with friends. And how does that help us? And how do our friends help us? One of the things that and that I really appreciate about Thay's teaching is that we always need a community. We always need a community of practitioners to help us along with our practice. And so there's a reason why the Sangha, or the community, is a part of the three jewels. So we have the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, the community. So there's a reason why it's a part of the three jewels. And it really is that supporting cast, that support that we need to help us in our practice, to grow in our practice, to give us challenges in our practice. And then you can also look at the community within inside of you. So what is your community inside? So it's literally each and every cell, your hands, your feet, your eyes, your ears, your nose. That is your Sangha as well. So if your hand is not working, or if your hand is broken, or for me, I had an operation on my knee, so there's times where it's very difficult to walk or it hurts. So each and every part of your body goes to that part to take care of it, or to make up for the ailment in your body. So you really have to practice and trust and have a relationship with your body and with your emotions. So your emotions are also a part of this community of your body, this sangha of your body. And so when my brother shared about building a relationship, it's literally building a relationship with your body. There's a very interesting practice that I practice once in a while. And it's when I really have like moments where have a really strong energy of maybe loneliness or anger or just fear. I really, like I shared earlier, see that person or see that emotion as like a little brother. And so I'm literally treating it as a little brother. So when I wake up in the morning and I see maybe my anger arising, I'm like, okay, 24 hours with me the whole day. So I wake up my anger. I'm like, let's go brush our teeth and wash our face. Okay, after we've done that, okay, let's go to sitting. Or what do you want to wear today? you know. Okay, after that, let's go to breakfast. What do you want to eat? You want oatmeal? No, you want bread. Okay, we'll have bread. So literally building a relationship with that emotion, treating it as your little friend, caring for it. Because I can imagine like your little brother needing attention, or even a little puppy or a little kitten. Oh, I love cat videos, by the way, but it's it's healing for me. It's healing for me. But just seeing that emotion as a friend and not abandoning it. I think you can imagine a little friend or a little puppy that's abandoned. It's really sore to the eye. You want to take care of it. You want to have love for it. And so it's same for our emotion. So when we have that feeling of anger or loneliness, let's take care of it. And we might not know how to, but at least when we think about taking care, like for me, a practice was taking it with me 24/7, or the 24 hours throughout the day. Seeing it really as a person, but it's a part of me. And when I feel that I'm taking care of my anger, that I'm really connecting with myself, it's a part of my community. And I feel that I have that support from my anger. So whenever it's watered, it shows his face. I'm like, oh, I know who you are. Let's go for a walk. So when I'm encountered with difficulties in my practice, if I'm practicing diligently and I'm building my foundation throughout the day, then really I don't worry too much. So I come from a background that plays a lot of sports, so a lot of team-related activities. And one of my coaches, and I still practice this to this day, is he told me, we stay ready so we don't have to get ready. So we stay ready so we don't have to get ready. So we're ready any time of the day for if anybody wants to play ball. We're ready. So we don't have to get ready. We don't have to prepare ourselves. So when I think about this in our practice, what does that mean? How does that translate? So, for example, when a difficulty arises or when anger arises, of course, I'm aware of the things that might be nurturing that, or that might be watering that seed of anger. But sometimes it arises and we don't know, or it comes at very surprising times, and imagine getting ready for a difficulty that's about to arise. Like my brother shared, sometimes we like to have a structural thing in our practice, and so we need the structure in order for us to 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 uh, to to take on that difficulty or take on that action. But sometimes difficulties, they come at random times, and we're either ready or we're not. And so for me, when I practice, I'm really trying to see that it's not necessarily my practice is weak. It might be that the difficulty might be bigger, but I'm ready. So diligence, practicing diligently is very important. So if we have a community, that's great, but be aware we also have that community within inside of us. So if our anger, our sadness, our fear is taken care of, we have nothing to worry about. If there's a difficulty that arises, because we take it on together. It's a collective practice. So we don't see ourselves just by ourselves. It's a collective thing. So I stay ready, so I don't have to get ready. And it's okay where our practice is and whatever difficulty comes about. For me, I'm always grateful when a difficulty arises because it's an opportunity. It's really an opportunity for us to see and grow. Sometimes we can be very afraid of it, but when it comes, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, here we go. I get to see where my practice is, or I get to build upon my practice, or I get to test myself. But if our foundation is strong, then we have nothing to worry about. So it's so important for us to continue to see the difficulties that come up, but seeing them as opportunities rather than something that we want to run away from. We see it in the face and we're like, okay, let's go. Let's do this. I'm ready. Always ready. And with whatever your practice is, that's what you got. Let's go. Let's just do it. And so, but it's so important for us to have that diligence. So, if we're having 5 minutes, or in the monastery we have half an hour or 45 minutes of sitting, walking meditation, if we're giving ourselves that time to practice diligently, we're slowly having those building blocks for our foundation. And so sometimes it may seem impossible to create time throughout your day to have a couple of breaths or have a little bit of walking, but just a little, it's baby steps. So if you're in your office and you probably have if you're in your office, you might have, 2 minutes of just I used to work in the office, and so it's just like you're typing, and you're like drawn into the screen, and then all of a sudden you kind of like wake up, and then you're just like, oh. And so in that moment, just that minute or two, breathe in, breathe out. It sounds very easy to do, especially now. But that's why it's a practice. We're constantly building that muscle to train ourselves, to get to build good habits within our practice, and so that throughout the day, we can see ourselves being more mindful. Because it's a part of our life now. It's not a tool. It's a part of our life. And so here at the monastery, when you're practicing, it's going to be very easy because the energy is strong. But how can you, throughout the day, just try to find ways for you to implement that within your daily life? And so as practitioners, we become present with any emotion. We build our sangha within ourselves. Make sure that our body's healthy, and make sure that our emotions and our mind is also healthy. So this topic that we brought about connecting is something it's a huge topic, and unfortunately the time that we have is not enough. But hopefully we were able to plant a seed so that we can continue to connect with each other as a community. And at times it's okay to be lonely. At times it's okay to have a strong emotion. We're human. But don't let that feeling or emotion be left alone. Be there for it. And we practice as humans, not as computers. And so allow the practice to be fluid. And so I know a lot of us are just arriving, and even for our long-term lay friends, our monastics, we're still practicing to make it fluid. And so we're practicing all together. So thank you, dear brother. And thank you, dear friends, for listening to us this morning. We're very grateful for your presence, and hopefully we weren't too boring. And we hope that you also enjoy this beautiful weather that we have today. And in the practice of walking meditation, I think we'll practice later today. Maybe we can invite you to see, maybe offer a couple of kisses, or see how yummy the earth is. Receive the nourishment from Mother Earth. And to continue to build your relationships with yourself and connect with yourself. Understand who you are. And sometimes it can be not as beautiful as we thought, but that's okay. We're beautiful regardless. And so thank you so much for listening, and we're so grateful that you're there. So maybe we'll end with 3 sounds of the bell, and just invite everybody to find a nice and comfortable posture as you enjoy these 3 sounds of the bell. Thank you.